in the midst of a huge transformation where peers, communities, and workplaces are all really melding into one. Welcome to Reimagining Company Culture. My name is Christina Giordano, and I'm the Partnerships and Community Manager here at AllVoices, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome our next guest onto the show, Sandra Noonan. She is the Chief Sustainability Officer at Just Salad, a personal favorite of mine. Sandra, if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, including your pronouns, and when you were younger, do you remember how you answered the question, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Sure. Good to be here. Thanks for having me. So I lead sustainability at Just Salad, which is a 15-year-old restaurant chain founded in 2006. Just Salad is a mission-led, founder-owned, and founder-led company whose goal is to make everyday health and everyday sustainability possible. We were founded in 2006 in New York City, and one of our signature initiatives is the Just Salad Reusable Bowl, which is behind me, and has existed since we opened our very first store in New York City. And I can talk about the Reusable Bowl a little bit more later, but the idea is to help our customers live or eat in a way that is low waste and rewards them for being low waste, which is increasingly important given the climate change circumstances we're in. So we strive to be a really resource conscious company, and hopefully in the future, a resource positive company. And so as Chief Sustainability Officer, I lead the Reusable Bowl program and several other initiatives like our carbon labeling initiative. And when I was a kid, I wanted to be a naturalist. I distinctly remember being very inspired by Jane Goodall, who is still kicking butt today and spreading the message of conservation. And she was my childhood idol. So I'm really happy that she's still around and leading by example, and I continue to follow her today. I didn't go in those footsteps, but the field of sustainability is such a growing one for people in business like me, and it's a real privilege to do this work every day.
Absolutely. I mean, we were discussing how you're really passionate about this work, and I think your journey to Just Salad is also interesting to note as well. How do you think, your personal path up until this point has led you to be Chief Sustainability Officer and really lead these initiatives at Just Salad?
So my story of joining Just Salad is the strangest and most wonderful career story, certainly in my life, among the jobs I've had. And it began when I was one day at home reading the New Yorker magazine, and there was a big article about Boyan Slat. He is the founder of the Ocean Cleanup. And I went, that looks interesting. I started reading the article and realized that this 20-something guy had built a whole company around cleaning up the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which is a floating, rotating gyre of plastic waste in the Pacific Ocean with trillions of pieces of plastic. And I'd heard about this, but this article really crystallized the problem of plastic pollution for me in a way that I had not grasped before. And as I read it, I realized, wait a second, I thought that the plastic I was consuming at home was largely recycled. And that article led me on a journey of discovery and self-education on the plastic pollution crisis. And I realized that the majority of plastic waste or plastic ever produced since plastic became a mainstream material in the 1960s, the majority of that material has not been recycled. Mm-hmm. And so reading this article and reading about pieces of children's toys floating in the ocean and toothbrushes and things that I found in my household that were harming marine ecosystems, I had a moment where I said, hold on, I did not sign up for this as a consumer. I had I was ashamed of my ignorance, but I was also galvanized, and I said, okay, I'm not going to participate in this. And so I started this journey of living or trying to live a zero waste life. And as a busy professional in New York City, one of the ways in which I sought to do that was by going to my local eatery by my office and saying, hey, could you serve my salad in a reusable container? Here's my container.
Mhm.
And I got a lot of no's, I got a lot of strange looks, and I got some yeses. And I got some yeses from people who were like, good for you, that's awesome. But it was still really awkward to do that because you never knew what they were going to say. And then one day I'm reading the New York Times and I see an article that mentions Just Salad and its reusable bowl program. And I went, what? And discovered that Just Salad had for years been allowing customers to get their salad in a reusable bowl. They have this really strict procedure for doing it. It was safe, it was healthy, it was clean. And I went, that's my place. So I became a diehard Just Salad fan, brought my reusable bowl everywhere, even to non-Just Salad restaurants when I couldn't find a Just Salad near me. And I eventually contacted the company and the CEO, Nick Kenner, and I said, I love this. This is the way of the future. Good on you. And by the way, like, can you make this available for delivery? I want to go reusable 100% all the time. That led to a conversation with the CEO where he invited me in and said, I love to talk to loyal customers. You're clearly a loyal customer. We struck up a conversation and started exchanging ideas. And that led to eventually a job offer at Just Salad as Chief Sustainability Officer. And I was more thrilled than I've ever been about a job offer in my entire life. So that's how it started.
That's incredible. And I feel like, especially right now, a lot of people are thinking about, brands that they really love and things that they are really passionate about as well, and trying to meld it into their work. It sounds like you taking initiative and, taking control of the kind of narrative as well, and also wanting to do kind of good in the community as well is really important. And I know you mentioned a couple different initiatives that you're working on, and they're kind of big problems to solve as well. But what is the next kind of situation that you are currently trying to solve at Just Salad? What's taking up the most brain space right now?
Yeah, so again, aligning everything with the mission of making everyday health and everyday sustainability possible. How do we make the Reusable Bowl program, number one, as simple and easy as possible for the customer? In 2022, we're going to enhance the program by relaunching our mobile app. And when you go into the mobile app, you'll be able to order food for pickup. So you want to order a salad, pick it up at your local Just Salad. What we'll do is make it possible for you to say, hey, I want it in a reusable bowl, and I don't want to deal with this bowl for the rest of my life. I just want it for that meal. I can then drop it off at Just Salad. We will professionally wash and sanitize it, and you're done. So some people don't want to walk around owning the reusable bowl like you do today. Some people love it, but some people just need more convenience. They want to just eat out of it and then it not be their problem. So that program called Bring Back, you bring back the bowl, will launch in 2022. And that's an effort to make the bowl available digitally. Because a lot of our customers say, I love going in with this blue bowl, but online I'm still generating a lot of waste when I order via an app. And that's true because you look at the statistics, 28% of Americans waste is related to packaging. So it is a huge waste stream. And I think Americans are becoming very cognizant of it increasingly. So that's one problem we're still tackling. And we really want to give you rewards with that. So we're going to have our rewards program be linked to your participation in the bowl program. So more rewards for customers who engage in sustainable behaviors like this. Another thing that we are trying to build out is our carbon labeling program. So all of our menu is carbon labeled. We've calculated the production to to transportation emissions of the food in our salads. And we have created a climatarian menu that shows you what the lowest impact, lowest emission salads are. So we are displaying that climatarian menu online and trying to do more storytelling and education around that as well, because about a quarter of global carbon emissions are associated with the food system. Mm-hmm. So we as consumers can really be part of the solution by choosing low impact options that are still really delicious. I could go on, but those are two big things that occupy a lot of my time.
Yeah, I mean, those are two large initiatives. We're talking about lowest barrier to entry for our customers to change behavior and really incentivizing them as well and making it as easy as possible. And, you know, Just Salad has also corporate employees and store employees, and everybody has to be aligned around this one mission that you're talking about as well. And I thought it was interesting, some of the programs that you were talking about that kind of help facilitate that education and storytelling with in-store employees. Could you share a little bit about that, how you kind of create those programs to really achieve those sustainability goals to make sure everyone is in alignment there?
Yeah, great question. So when you have a growing company with stores all over the country, we're in 6 US states, you have to, as a chief sustainability officer, find a way to take your colleagues and your teammates along the journey with you. So preaching from the pulpit of sustainability at the corporate level is not enough and is not going to capture hearts and minds. People don't want to be talked at. They want to feel invested in the purpose of the company. And so early on, when I joined Just Salad in 2019, I was like, how can I make everyone at our stores a chief sustainability officer per se? And we came up with the concept of a sustainability champion at every store. So we identified employees at our stores who were enthusiastic, who loved our mission, who were great with customers. And we said, you're going to be a sustainability champion. Mm-hmm. And they wore a hat called Sustainability Champion. And we said, we are asking you to be the ambassador for our programs, whether that's the reusable bowl or things the customer doesn't see but are very important, like our composting program. So when we rolled out composting across our stores, we wanted to make sure that the composting was being done right. You can really mess up composting by throwing lots of garbage in with the compost, and then you're doing a horrible disservice to the waste hauler and the composter, who have to then separate all that junk out of the organics. So things like that that the customer might not think about, we said, please monitor for us. How are we doing? Report any issues to me. And then we have an educational component. So over the past year, I've held half a dozen trainings with our sustainability champions at all our stores via Google Meet, where I will have a guest speaker who will talk about lots of things. So we had the founder of Clever Carbon do a lecture to our store employees about how to calculate your carbon footprint, and people were loving it. It was so much fun. Suddenly our store employees all knew what their carbon footprint was, and they were identifying at a very personal level with the idea of one's individual carbon footprint. And that made them understand our carbon labels better. So as a company at Just Salad, we truly make the time to make sustainability personal for employees as best we can.
I think that's really important to think about the holistic perspective and not just have, you know, sustainability goals on a corporate level, again, on a consumer level, which is really important as well, but really involving everyone who is part of these missions, goals, and initiatives too, and providing that education and that space to learn and really empowering people, like you talked about too, in these kind of leadership roles for kind of encouraging a zero waste economy. These are big goals. How do you measure the success or progress of these programs?
Sure. So we have a lot of goals, and for each goal, we're data driven. So for example, we really want to reduce the amount of food waste generated at our stores to the absolute minimum. So every night, our employees weigh the amount of food waste that goes into the waste stream, and we track that religiously on a daily basis. And we try to give our stores the tools to bring that down. So whether that's composting or partnerships with an app like Too Good To Go, where they can sell surplus food at the end of the night. And so we have an analytics function where we look at these charts of food waste, and if they're going in the wrong direction, we talk about it and we fix it. With the Reusable Bowl program, the KPIs are percentage of customers using it. So we want to get that number up. And we also have done a lot of academic work that we will publish in 2022 that quantifies the greenhouse gases, the water savings, and the ecosystem impact improvements or ecosystem impact averted by engaging in reuse versus disposables. And that's really important to help the consumer understand with data how much of an impact you're truly having by avoiding that disposable container. So that is quantifiable. We know that after X number of uses, one of these reusable bowls is making you a less resource intensive consumer. You're saving water, emissions, and toxic impacts to the environment. Why? Because every time you make a disposable container, there are lots of ecosystem impacts that you wouldn't even think about in the manufacturing and distribution and transportation stages. So yeah, sorry, that's a big answer, but really we do focus on data and tracking and monitoring metrics.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting because there are ways that you can measure the number of bowls used, the number of consumers who are raising their hands and being involved in this program, weighing the food at the end of the day as well. The signature bowl program, the reusable just salad bowl, I feel like I've seen a lot of those around the city as well, living in New York, and it has been around for a long time. And I know over these past 18 months, 2 years, so many folks are talking about innovation, whether that's in their people practices, but also just on a company level at large to think about goals. What are other experiments or programs you've tried to really meet these goals of emitting less carbon and really making sure that things are not resource intensive?
Yeah, the innovation is on my mind constantly. I think that innovation can come in many forms. It can come in process innovation. It can come in the form of a truly new, original idea that you put into the world. And it can come in the form of a product that you build. So on the process innovation side, it's not as glamorous, but it's super important. So what is the process by which we convince a customer that the reusable bowl is the right way to go from an environmental perspective? And that could be as simple as testing a new way of talking about the bowl at the stores. So getting on a Google Meet call with 40 or 50 store employees and saying, okay, this week, let's see if asking the customer if they want a bowl with their salad will lead to more engagement and participation than if we let them just make the choice themselves and not say anything. What kind of a lift will we get in customer engagement? And then we track and we measure. So that's process innovation, and it's unglamorous, takes time and takes measurement, and that's all there is to it. And then product innovation, I would say, or just pure innovation, I'd say like the carbon label. How do you decide as an organization that it's worth our time and effort to do carbon labeling? At some point, you have to just say, because it's the right thing to do, because it's our mission, and we have to give ourselves space to try and to fail and to test and to learn. And so with carbon labeling, it wasn't like we said, we forecast 20% sales increase from this initiative. No, not at all. Instead, we said, we know there's research out there that says carbon labeling leads people to make better choices about what they eat. And based on that, we're going to give it a try. So yeah, innovation can be pursued in a number of ways, and we try to do it wherever it makes sense with our mission.
Yeah, I think that definitely makes sense. And I think Just Salad is in a really unique position in the market and to be kind of an industry leader in this realm as well, via a lot of the different ways that you've strategized and really innovated with the process too. I think marketing to consumers and really that messaging is important too, what you're talking about for innovation, seeing what works and really testing things out and doing the right thing. You mentioned a couple of stats around packaging and what contributes to kind of the immense waste that we have in society. But I do want to ask you the question to be clear for our audience members listening in terms of why is Just Salad's position in the market industry unique to make an impact to really decrease the waste that we are seeing?
I think it's unique because people take for granted that eating on the go has to be a wasteful activity, that you have to throw away packaging every time you have your office lunch or you get delivery. And because we've been doing it from day one, we have had 15 years of practice as an organization to make this work. And now we just need to scale it to a greater percentage of customers. So I think what makes it unique is that our commitment to this started on day one, and we have such a lead in the marketplace in making reusables actually work. I also just want to go back to innovation for a second and mention that it's also really important to bring in experts in these topics when you're trying to do something so new. So one thing we've done is we've consulted with environmental psychologists. I did not even know that field existed. So excited when I heard it did. But there are PhDs in environmental psychology who have told us, we had one come in for a lecture and explain to us how you identify a person's willingness to scrap an old behavior, like throwing away a disposable container, and engage in a new one. What are the messages and what are the circumstances that have to happen to create that behavior change? That's also innovation in the sense that we are truly kind of a behavior change team here, trying to really change the world in that sense. So anyway, wanted to go back and mention that as well.
I think that is important too, because you do want to bring subject matter experts, research folks who have PhDs and are dedicating their kind of life to this research, and it is out there. And then I also hear you say too that you can't only depend on, it's going to increase sales by 50% and all these things. You know that the research shows that this is the right thing to do. So you also have to kind of lean into it and create those circumstances, which I think is really important as well. I know I've been talking and asking a lot of questions around kind of your journey to Just Salad and how you kind of think about the strategy for the company, but I do want to ask from your perspective in just working in sustainability, what you've seen and kind of advice for the future. So my next question is around what are some common mistakes, even with the best intentions, you've seen people try to make in their kind of impact for sustainability programs in the private sector? This could be really broad, anything you've seen in the news and not necessarily at Just Salad or other places that you've worked at.
Sure. I think that one mistake is not being radical enough. Okay. The mindset of incrementalism, of making small baby step changes, is those days are behind us. We don't have the luxury of that anymore. So that's, it's easy for me to preach that, but I do think that as a company, we have been radical in our approach to packaging and gone the reusable route. I think that timidity and incrementalism are a mistake. if you're trying to solve a real problem. And that goes also to following fads and not data.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is looking at when you're evaluating a program, I think you have to attach it to true environmental impact metrics, and that takes time and effort. So really, what are the carbon emission savings of that choice you're making versus it's just perceived as green and cool? So a mistake would be to not attach metrics and true impact outcomes to your sustainability platform.
I love that. I think what you said in terms of incrementalism being something of the past as well is really important for folks to know too. And I think that goes back to the innovation piece too, right? Of just seeing what's out there, seeing the information and the data, making data-driven approaches, and also testing things out to see what the impact is and being really specific, like you were talking about, of what the impact of that behavior change is. Do you have any advice for folks who want to apply to Just Salad, specifically in terms of folks who are really invested in the mission and the goals of the company?
I do. So for anyone who wanted to work here, I would have a few pieces of advice. The first is to really know the company, which sounds very obvious, but I've had people say, "Oh, I've never eaten at Just Salad, but I love what you're doing." You need to really show that you've done your research and you've actually engaged with the company by going to a store. So that's one basic piece of advice. The other is to have a point of view. We're not perfect. We make mistakes. We could be better. And I want to hear from a candidate a point of view on what we're doing. I think what you're doing here is great, but if I were you, I would also do this. Right. I value that when it's delivered in the right way. And then finally, this doesn't have to do with sustainability, but for someone starting in a new role, there is a book that I think is very valuable that I recommend to everyone, and it's called The First 90 Days. And this book, The First 90 Days, is about how to set yourself up for success in a role in these critical first 90 days through relationship building, through setting an agenda, achieving quick wins. And I can't recommend the book highly enough, especially to someone who wants to get into the job and just go.
Yep.
That's awesome, but there's more to it than that. So those are my 3 pieces of advice.
That's by Michael Watkins, right? The First 90 Days, I think.
Say it again.
It's by Michael Watkins, The First 90
Yes,
Days.
I think so.
One of my former VPs is probably dancing around right now because that is a book that he gifted to everyone who started on my team. So I definitely also +1 and recommend that too, because it was helpful, because I definitely wanted to dive right in, especially, and make an impact on day 1, maybe hour 1 too. I'm sure you get a lot of messages and questions, whether it's in person or kind of via email as well, about kind of pivoting into sustainability if you don't have 20 years experience, or even 5 years in the role, but someone is really passionate about sustainability and they want to make it a full-time role in their job. What is your kind of advice or call to action for those folks?
My advice is to start something. I get a lot of inbounds from people who say, "How'd you get into sustainability? I'd really like to do what you did." And that's, first of all, it's very flattering and it's wonderful. And you're doing the right thing by reaching out to someone, certainly. But beyond just reaching out and asking for advice, it's also walking the walk. Even if you feel imposter syndrome, do something to address the environmental problems you are seeing in the world. So in my case, I was working a full-time job, but on the side, I started a group called Zero Waste NYC. And it was just a group where we got together and we tried to solve the problem of how wasteful living in NYC can be. Packaging, commerce, e-commerce, all that stuff. And so just started and it kind of took off. And that allowed me to have a visible sign of my sincerity when I was talking to Just Salad, for instance, about a job. So yeah, I would say Don't just ask people for advice. Try to show your true commitment to the problem by doing something, no matter how small, to fix it.
Absolutely. Start something. Anyone can start where they are, especially, if they are passionate about it as well and make an impact. Sandra, is there anything that I either didn't ask you that you want to share with the folks who are listening, or maybe 1 to 2 key insights you hope that they bring with them after listening to this podcast?
I would just say the circular economy is coming. And by that, I mean an economy where we take, make, and waste less, and we recycle, reuse, repurpose more. And Giselle's company that is embedded in the circular economy, at least in a small way through our Reusable program. And my call to action to people would be help accelerate the transition to a circular economy, and one that uses fewer resources, by encouraging and supporting companies that do it, whether it's a circular fashion company or joining a group like Zero Waste NYC, or being our customer and participating in the Reusable Bowl program. That's what I would hope that people take away.
There are changes and adjustments that you can make to your daily habits tomorrow to really contribute to kind of a zero waste economy, and also kind of make those changes that we've been discussing as well. Sandra, thank you so much for being on Reimagining Company Culture and for sharing your personal journey to this work, and just advice for folks who are listening as well.
Thank you so much.
Of course. And as a reminder for folks who are listening, at AllVoices, we believe in employee feedback management, and hearing from folks across the organization is a requirement for the company to succeed. Have a good rest of your afternoon, everyone.